Hey, David. How you doing, David? You're on mute. I can't hear you.
So
There we go.
I'm trying to figure out how to get my headphones connected.
Are they Bluetooth?
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. I'll have
Should
it
be
in
able
a
to
second.
select them on your Bluetooth settings on your phone. Hey, Will, how you doing? Can't hear you, Will. There you are.
Hey, I'm doing good. I hope you are too, Dennis.
Yeah, no complaints.
Dennis, how's my sound without my AirPods?
Sounds fine.
Okay.
Can hear you.
Hey, David, you're in the entrepreneurship school. What's the process of getting like an intern to work for a business?
There's a couple different processes. We have one program that's a Golden Leaf funded grant called Rise 29, and we actually pay the interns to come and work for you. And so we usually get really high quality interns for that program. But I think they've already done those placements for this year, but they might have them coming up for the spring.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And then you can also, for non-paid interns, or if you wanted to pay the intern, we also have them that are placed through the Career Center with the College of Business. So okay. I can get you in touch with either or both of those if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be excellent. I'll shoot you an email after this.
Okay.
So what's going on, Will? Anything exciting?
Actually quite a bit. We're planning on what we're going to be doing as far as new market launches is in the turn of the year. And you were asking us like if there was a mentor that had a better skill than one another. Do you know one of our mentors that is amazing at recruiting for employers and like employees?
I'll have to look at that. I'm not sure. Nothing jumps out at me. Go ahead.
I know of someone who might be a good fit, and it's a contact that Michael Harris has. I'll in your email just mention that as a skill that you need as well. I'll follow up with him on both things.
Awesome, thank you, David.
Now, I'm not sure. I know who's great at recruiting is Robin Mee, who's one of our mentors. That's actually her business. She is a staffing person. Mm-hmm. And she recruits people. That's what her business is. She's done it for 31 years. And she's a real good friend of mine. And so check her out on the site, acceleraterural.org. You can see her background there, and I can connect you with her.
All right. And I'll just plan on shooting you a message after today's class on that as well, and kind of bouncing off a couple ideas to you if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm around. Okay, I'm going to give it just another minute or so, and I hope everyone's ready for Halloween, huh?
Yeah. No real plans at the moment.
How about you, David? You got all these little kids. So you probably got something going on.
Well, we are actually in the semifinals of the state tournament for volleyball. And we're on the way right now to the game. If we win today, finals will be on Halloween. So that'll be part of our day. And otherwise, we'll probably just go trick-or-treating.
Oh, wow. Where is your game today?
It's in Asheboro.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huh. That's a hike.
Yeah.
All right.
Good luck to you in your
Yeah.
I appreciate it. We'll need it. We're playing a good team today.
Now, is this club level or high school level? What
High school. Yeah. My wife has coached at Greenville Christian Academy for this might be 14 years now, something like that.
Wow.
GCA was like our biggest competitor to the school I went to.
Which school did you go to?
I went to Trinity Christian.
Oh yeah, big rivals.
Okay. All right, everybody. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm sure folks will be chiming in. So yesterday we talked about emotional intelligence and how do we use that in multiple ways. We talked about it with employees. We talked about it with customers. We talked about it with suppliers. We kind of covered the realm pretty good, I thought. And then toward the end of our conversation, we started talking about KPIs and the idea of key performance indicators. So today we're going to go through a little bit of a process with the Techstars curriculum that I talk about on how they go about setting up KPIs, which I think will be helpful for all of us. So we're going to watch a few videos, and then we're going to kind of circle back and talk about it and figure out if anybody has any questions about how to do it for their own particular case, and we can follow up from there. Any questions or thoughts before we head over there?
Dennis, did you want me to talk about the marketing team
Is that what today
program?
was? My fault.
Yeah.
I apologize. Go ahead, David.
Oh, no worries. So I don't know if everyone caught it in the Slack channel, but I put in some instructions on how you can have a marketing firm placed with your company at no charge. And so this is from a partnership with the Pitt Small Business Center. They received a grant from the CARES Act for COVID assistance, and that will offset the cost of placing a marketing firm with small companies at a rate of up to $100 per hour. So they have 2 companies that are participating in the Pitt County area, both great companies. And so if you are interested at having one of those placements at no cost to you, I figure, what have you got to lose? There's the assistance is there and the instructions are there. If you have any trouble, just shoot me an email and I can help you out.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm sorry, I was out all morning and I didn't see that Slack thing, so I apologize for that, David.
I think I put it in. I must have put it in yesterday morning, so it should be in the Monday participants Slack channel.
Okay. Well, that's great. Well, thank you very much for thinking of everybody, and I think that's a wonderful contribution. From the CARES Act. That's great.
Did anybody have any questions on that program?
Who's the particular firm that is being offered?
I'm really not sure which firm they're working with, but they've had pretty good success with them so far. There's 2 and internally at the community college, they have trouble bringing on contractors. They have a policy that everyone has to sign up as an employee at the college. So they were actually only able to recruit 2 firms to do that passed the vetting process.
Still a really cool opportunity. I'll include that in my email later today.
Okay. Well, good luck, David, on your game, and
there are 2 to choose from, apparently.
You're breaking up pretty good, David. You can hear us.
Thanks, Dennis.
Okay. See you later. Okay. All right. Here we go.
So today's purpose is to identify your key performance indicators by following your customer's journey so that you know what to grow during Techstars and beyond. So often when you're inside a company and you think about taking an idea, finding prospects, trying to get them into your company, turn them into customers, can often feel a lot like this. So you put your safety goggles on because entrepreneurship's a little bit dangerous sometimes. You're like, okay, we're going to knock down these dominoes, run these marketing campaigns. We'll try to get some attention from the market, try to get people to pay attention to us. That'll knock over a couple other things. We'll get some leads. We'll try to get those leads in the door. That'll knock a few more things off. Now we got the ball rolling internally with our delivery of the product. We try to get them, signed up, provisioned, onboarded. Try to get, find the little places where we didn't quite do it right, which then kicks off another thing, which whacks some consumer complaints. Got bodies flying, parachutes jumping, balls dropping, cans going over. At the end of the day, we're trying to figure out how the heck to make this business work. And early on, most of the time, all we get is a bunch of paint in our face. So this is very much what it's like to be in an early stage startup. The reality is, as your company scales, as you grow, the Rube Goldberg machine goes away a little bit. And notice here you can see in the background, this was not the first time they did this. If you want to see this whole thing, this is from OK Go. It's one of their fantastic videos. They did it in one take with one camera. Crazy. But building and scaling a company can feel like you're living inside of a Rube Goldberg machine. Should feel really simple to be like, can I just run an ad and get $1 million out the other end, please? But early on, you have to go through all that stuff that you just saw OK Go through. So today what we're going to try to do is make that Rube Goldberg machine a little bit more visible to you, gain a better understanding of how your business works by determining 2 to 3 KPIs you need to understand, track, and goal set to drive progress here and beyond. I first want to start out with some concepts because I think there's some important language here that's valuable to the discussion. And I came to know a lot of these concepts because my background, being an entrepreneur, building scalable companies, I've been on a couple journeys from literally 0 to 360 million in revenue in one company and 0 to successful IPO in another company. And throughout that process, what I realized was the degree to which you can understand your KPIs, which they don't just come from on high and magically appear to you, you have to work at it. But the degree to which you can understand those KPIs, it really, really can drive the success of your company. Okay, so let's talk about concepts. KPI, just want to make it clear, key performance indicator. These are all kind of fall into the branch of metrics. So as I think about this, there are metrics, which represent a numerical understanding of your business. KPI is a subset of that, which are the key indicators that you really pay attention to that are the drivers of your business, or at least measure critical drivers of your business. Metrics in general, but specifically KPIs, allow you to create a shared understanding within your company, not just with the people inside your company, but with investors as well. It's a great way to share with them how your business works. It allows you to effectively communicate internally as well as externally, because right now, you're at the size where you're just figuring stuff out. As you start to scale, you're all going to be the chief communication officer in your company. You're going to be storytellers telling the rest of the organization how this moves forward, how it works. It enables structured thinking and validated learning. So if we think about learning, validated learning, that's derivative from the scientific method, which means we have a hypothesis. If we do this, we expect this result. And by actually measuring the result, you can compare that with the actual, and it's in that gap that creates learning. So critical to understand how your business works. But ultimately what this is about, not an academic exercise, but this is about making progress in your business. How do you grow the thing? How do you make it go the way you want it? With the concepts, I'm going to give an overview here and I'm going to give examples. Then, because I believe it's beneficial sometimes to learn not in your domain, is I'm going to give you a car driving example, because my presumption is, especially being in LA, everybody drives, everybody's familiar with cars. And then I'll give a startup example. These are concrete examples from Techstars companies that I've worked with. And that includes the 3 classes that I was a part of as an MD team or coach in Boulder, as well as network-wide, a lot of the classes that I've been working with. So first up, actionable versus vanity. So this comes out of the lean startup language. Actionable metric for your car, check engine light goes on. Pretty clear sign, I need to take action on that. I need to do something. A vanity metric is the relative horsepower of your super. It doesn't tell the whole picture. This is for bragging. You know it's a vanity metric when you're using it to brag. Because in car land, it's not just the horsepower, it's the torque, it's the weight of the car. There's a whole bunch of other factors that indicate performance and handling. In startup land, actionable is number of iOS crash reports per day. So I was working with a company, they were having some quality issues, and that became a KPI that they tracked for a few months to get their quality in order. Total iOS downloads, total vanity. Brag about that does really no good to understanding and making progress within your business. Flow over stock. So a flow metric in car is a rare sight here, but when traffic's moving smoothly, these are things, measurements that you look at over time. Stock metrics are like a parking lot. It's a cumulative metric. So it's a stock metric when the number can never go down. Stock metrics are very dangerous to pay attention to in your business because by definition, they only go up and to the right. Even though all of the mechanisms underneath your business may be failing, that number will lead you to think you're making progress. So if we think about this in startup land, daily active users, that's a flow metric. That's over some per unit of time, goes up and down with time. Stock metrics are total user signups. Again, great to brag about, but it doesn't let you really understand how your business is working. We've got qualitative and quantitative metrics. So what's qualitative? Those are the stories. So in this case, this is the text that describes car and driver's test of the BMW M2. So that gives you kind of a feel for what the car is like. And then quantitative are the raw numbers, the metrics. So here you can look at the actual numbers of things. A lot of times we think about in business building that it's only the quantitative metrics that matter, but the qualitative ones are really important too sometimes. An NPS example here, on the qualitative side, the storytelling side, it's really powerful. If somebody gives you a net promoter score of 0, read their feedback. At Rally, when I ran and led the product team, every net promoter score 0, 1, and 10 I would read that came in. And then a quantitative is a 30-day running net promoter score. So the stories as well as the data can be very powerful. Leading and lagging. A leading metric on your car is the gas rangefinder that tells you how much distance you have left before you run out of gas. Not 100% accurate. Mine's at the very beginning tells me about 100 miles more than I actually have, and at the end tells me about 10 less than I actually have, which is probably a good thing. A lagging metric is the trip odometer, how far you've been. So leading indicators or metrics help you see into the future in a way that does have some noise and error into it. Lagging indicators tell you the story about what happened in the past. So if you think about running your business, if you're running your business off of lagging indicators, it's like driving your car looking through the rearview mirror. Leading indicators are like looking out the front of the car. I actually know somebody who can drive pretty effectively looking only out the rearview mirror. It's kind of creepy. As long as the road's straight, you're good, but any turns and you're in trouble. Business is the same way. The thing about startups where you have a huge advantage is larger companies run their company almost exclusively off of lagging metrics. So if you can create, or if some market trend bends the road on them, they're just going to keep going straight. And you can follow the bend in the road because you're looking out the front of the car, not out the back. So if we think about this from a startup standpoint, prospect demos per week, that's a leading indicator potentially of sales. Now, if you're in marketing, because this is all relative, leading and lagging is relative. If you're in marketing, prospect demos per week is actually a lagging indicator of your marketing campaigns. So keep in mind, it's very perspective-based where you're at between leading and lagging. But obviously, prospect demos will come before deals closed per week. So if you want to predict how many deals you're closing this week, some math on your prospect demos will help you build that understanding of your business. Generic, specific, and behavioral. So as we think about this, metrics can fall into these different camps, different classifications. So in a car, a generic metric is the speedometer. Every single car has a speedometer in it, so you can know how fast you're going. A specific measurement in your car related to gas cars, not electric, is the oil temperature. And then behavioral is if you put one of those computer dongles into your car, it can tell you if you're braking fast, if you're accelerating hard. So it can give you all these behavioral statistics around your business. So the startup equivalent is a generic metric is available cash. Now, any of you that are close to running out of money know that this doesn't mean just because it's lagging or a generic metric that it's not a valuable metric. Because if you're getting close to running out of cash, available cash is a KPI you should pay a lot of attention to. But it's generic. Every company in the land has one of those. Monthly recurring revenue, that's specific to term-based businesses, so recurring revenue type businesses. And then behavioral is something very specific to your company. So one of the companies that I was working with out of the Chicago program, one of their key metrics they really paid attention to, their workflow system, was number of hours saved per workflow that was instantiated in their customer's environment. So that let them understand that the product wasn't just being used, but it was valuable to the organization, to their customer. So again, it doesn't mean that one of these is better than the other, but it helps you understand the nuance of your business. One of my favorites, correlation and causation. So we are meaning-making machines, which means that if we see the data, a near perfect correlation between import oil from Norway and cars getting run down by trains, near perfect correlation. Now our brains will jump to the fact that, oh, that's causality. Telling myself the story, that means we're using more oil, it means we're driving more. The more we drive, we get hit by trains more. Maybe, maybe not. Causality is if I turn my blinker on, the light flashes next to my speedometer. I caused that to happen. So in startup land, a correlation could be Facebook spend and signups. A lot of you will think the more we spend on Facebook, the more signups we get. A lot of you have data that that's true. One of the companies that I was working with, they believed that was true. So they ran a test. The hypothesis was if we spend more on Facebook, our signups will go up, 10% more on Facebook, 10% more signups. They ran the test and got about, not quite, they got about 5% more. And they were like, awesome, correlation there. And then they dug into the data and they realized that when they ran the campaign, they actually screwed up. And they stopped their Facebook spend. And their signups went up 5%. No correlation between Facebook spending. So that wanders more into causality, which is, in this example, there was a company that was trying to get an increase in day one signups of their mobile app. They ran an experiment where they put an in-app guide in to try to up the conversion rate on day one. So they ran that with a subset of their market. They got the hypothesis came true. Then they turned it off, came back down within baseline, turned it back on, came back up. So they were able to do a cause and effect test on that. There's a little trick that can help you, because we're all storytelling machines, to help you check in on, are we at correlation here or causation? Because causation is the gold standard. Like, you want to know, if we do this over here in our business, this great thing's going to happen over here. But it takes a long time to get there. The trick with correlation is if you look at it and flip the order and it still makes sense, you probably have correlation. We'll go back to this with this example. So if the correlation, you could say, if we import more crude oil, do train accidents go up? Okay, that makes sense. Train accidents go up means we import more crude oil. Maybe, maybe not, but it's coherent. It sort of makes sense. That's when you know you have correlation. Causation is, if you do the same standard, I turn the turn signal on, the light blinks, that causes that. Light blinks, I turn the turn signal on. Does that make any sense in your car? So in that case, you know you have potential for causality there because it doesn't make sense the other direction. So you're looking for what's called the arrow of direction or arrow of correlation or causality, ultimately in your business. But early on, all you have is stuff that, well, these seem to happen together. And it's a mystery why, and that's part of entrepreneurship, is digging in and understanding why. KPI dynamics. How do these fit together? How do we think about KPIs in a larger way? There's kind of two axes I'm going to build here. The three things I talked about, generic, specific behavioral on one side, and then leading to lagging on the other. So again, I talked about leading to lagging is based on your perspective. It's not like it's an absolute. There's a continuum here. There's also a continuum on the generic, the specific, and the behavioral. That's a continuum too. So there's a powerful way you start to think about metrics in your company, and I'll talk about when you're in investor meetings. You can learn a lot about an investor based on the questions they ask on this schematic here. There's a zone here of your metrics or KPIs. If you plot them against these two axes, in the bottom right here are accounting KPIs. These are the easy ones to come to because they're generic, they're common to every company in the land, and they tend to be very lagging indicators. So an example of that is cash balance. Every company in the land has a cash balance, and it's the most lagging indicator possible for your business. A lot of companies will say, we need to up the cash balance. There's a couple ways to do that. You can bring in more revenue from customers, you could raise more money from investors, but ultimately, just because you need more cash doesn't mean it will give you answers about how to raise money or how to bring more money in from customers. But it is a powerful KPI, especially if you're running low on cash. Next, there tends to be this kind of region of investor KPIs. Now we're starting to get more specific into your business, and we're getting more into leading indicators of how your business is working. So if we think about cash balance, months of burn is your burn rate. Cash balance, burn rate, gives you the months of burn. So that's a little bit more of a leading indicator. You're looking a little bit more out into the future. MRR, again, more of a leading indicator, but now specific to your business. Daily active users, that's another example here. So these are questions that often investors will ask you about. There's another zone here, which is management KPIs. And this is the zone that's really important to get into as you operate your business. It's going to be super easy and very obvious to pick all of the accounting KPIs for your business. Please avoid that. It's okay to pick kind of in the investor zone. You should have answers there. Initially, it's okay to operate your business with an understanding just at that level. But ultimately, what you want to get to is an understanding of your business where you can figure your business out based on the management KPIs. So in this case, this is an example of a company that's a photo sharing company. A leading indicator is impressions per day. So that's more of a marketing, but it's still pretty generic because most companies, when they're doing kind of lead-based generation, are going to have some kind of impression metric. Way up there in the behavioral is, they noticed that on the 7th picture that somebody added, their likelihood of staying on the site grew dramatically. So the KPI that they realized was new users, how fast can we get them to posting that 7th picture? That drove a bunch of behavior within the company because they knew once you got the sign up to that point, the likelihood of them sticking was so much higher. So this gives you an example of various spots that you can put probes into your business to understand, measure, and drive progress. Initially, you may only have the accounting ones. You may have guesses at this investor zone, but ultimately the goal here is to understand your business to the point where you can build metrics and have visibility into your business up into that management KPI zone. A lot of people think, okay, as long as I just have KPIs, we're golden. That's just part one. Part two is checking in on the KPIs. Because ultimately what you want to do is have the KPIs drive your behavior and drive your understanding of how the business works. So if you're not checking in on them, they're just kind of these cute things you hang on the wall, or they're the things you send out every month in your investor update. What I really encourage you to do is a weekly ops review. This may be one of the most powerful meetings you can set up in your company. The agenda that I like is the simplest agenda that works because I like figuring out the minimum effective dose instead of the maximum dose. It's like, what's the minimum thing that will make a huge impact for you? Just do this. Start the meeting out, gather. Initially, it's your whole company. Eventually, it'll be kind of the decision makers, span of control, sphere of influence people in your company. That's the fun of scaling, is you get to have that bicker about who gets to be in a meeting and not. Enjoy it while you're small in a startup that you don't have that issue. Start out with good news, because the goal of this meeting, once you get past good news, is productive paranoia. Productive is an important word there. Not just paranoia about all of the things that could kill you, productive paranoia, which is what are the things we should be concerned about and how do we take action on them right now? Good news is important because that productive paranoia may make the rest of the meeting seem kind of sour because you're hand-wringing about stuff. Go around the table, have each person just say something great that happened either in the company or in their personal life. It's a great way to make a little connection. It's really important to review your goals because goals and KPIs are not the same thing. They're linked together in an important way. So review your goals. How'd you do on those? Review your KPIs. How did they move? Now, if you notice here, if you're reviewing your KPIs every week, if you pick lagging indicators, it'll become apparent pretty quickly because over a span of a week, they won't move. And you're like, well, 42 is still the number on that KPI. If you're picking leading indicators, they will move each week. So that's a good way to check in on. And when you review your KPIs, you're not just reviewing how are the KPI, how are the numbers doing, you're also checking in on, is this the right way to measure our business? Because let's say something goes really wrong in your business and all the KPIs were showing everything's great. That's a great chance to reflect on, is this the right KPI? Or if something great happens in your business and the KPIs don't move, another chance to reflect on, do we have the right KPIs in our business? And then really important part of productive paranoia, and this is the productive part, is clear the issues. Pure paranoia is worry. Productive paranoia is where you actually take action on it. So before people get up out of that meeting, understand what are the issues, potentially have a discussion on them while everybody's there. So don't call a meeting to have a meeting later. Clear it right there. Figure out who's responsible for it. And the cool thing about doing this every week is the default is you will report back or tell us a story next week of what happened as you cleared that issue this week. So there's this built-in weekly accountability into the heartbeat cadence of these meetings. Some things the issues may be strong enough that you can't move them to the following week. So in that case, who's got the action item and when are they going to tell the story back out to that group about how it's progressing? Simple. 4 agenda items, super, super powerful meeting. When I was at Rally, we grew from 0 to successful IPO. This was the backbone cadence of our company. Initially, we had almost everybody in the meeting when we were 12 people. And when we were public and 600 people, we had 35, 40 people in this meeting. And it's not like it's a 5-hour meeting. So one of the ways to think about this is this cadence, these meetings are a way to invest in your success. So if we do just kind of a line item here, we talked about stand-ups in another session, about just very quickly getting together, clearing issues. So let's say that takes 15 minutes a day. I encourage a half-hour ops review. These do not need to be an hour long at this size. As you get bigger, sometimes they get to be an hour. But even when we were 600 people in public, we would get through that part of the meeting in 25 minutes. Complete review of every bit of functional bit in the company in 25 minutes. Retrospectives and weekly planning. When you think about working on the company versus in the company, so on is where you're improving the company, working in the company is just busy doing things. If you install all of this, you're investing about 5% of your time in the sort of weekly heartbeat. The monthly heartbeat adds in strategic planning, which I'll talk about tomorrow in goal setting. That'll up you to about 7%. And then if you do a yearly cadence where you're including quarterly offsites, generally that's just initially the founding team, executive team. Ultimately, you're getting to a point where if you do this well, you're investing about 8.7% of your time making sure the company runs really well.
Buy-in on KPIs within the organization. How do you fast track that?
So usually within startups, buy-in is a pretty easy thing to get because you're all pretty vested in it. You may get to the point where there's a debate, is it this KPI or that KPI? What I encourage you to do is focus with the conviction to change. It's really, really alluring at this stage of your company to say, I'm just going to like bomb a floodlight out into the market. I'm going to bomb a floodlight out into all of the metrics that are going on in our company. I'm going to have a dashboard with 100 metrics on it. Like, I rocket this. That's not focus. So in doing that, you're hoping that what will come back is like, if I shine a big enough light, something will flash in the distance, and like I'll go respond to that. The trick is to shine a bunch of lasers in. Because the problem with the floodlight is if something reflects back at you, you have no idea why. One of the CEOs that I used to work for, he said that it's awesome to have a company that's working and you know why. It's awful to have a company that's not working and you don't know why. It's really bad to have a company that's working and you don't know why. And so the trick with shining this floodlight in is you can have a company that's working and you won't know why. And then there's a lot of expectation like, well, hey, it's working. Here's a big pile of money. Go crank the knob up and give me a bunch of money back as an investor. And you're like, oh, I don't know how this thing works. It's just making money. And so that pressure can be really challenging. KPIs are the same way. If you have 100 KPIs, because it will be easy to avoid that conversation narrowing in on one by just saying, oh, sure, yeah, let's monitor that too. Ah, yeah, let's monitor that too. And next thing you know, you wake up and you have 100 KPIs. That's not the way to do it. The way I encourage you to do it is say, okay, here are candidate KPIs. Let's laser focus on these for the next week, next month. Let's see if we put structured energy into moving them. Do they move? Does it move our business forward and make progress? If your business is stagnant and your KPIs are stagnant, you're just kind of in a murky place. If your business is failing and your KPIs are going up, then you ask yourself the question, okay, did I just land on a leading KPI and things are going to be good later? Or if there's no correlation there between the energy you're putting in and those metrics moving, it's the wrong metric. So focus, but with the ability to commit to a new one quickly is what I would encourage you to do to build consensus around what are the right things to monitor. And you may realize that, oh, we're monitoring 3 here, that really this behavioral leading indicator is the one we really care about. Let's ignore the other 2. So you'll kind of narrow it down over time. But that's part of the numerical understanding of your business. It's messy at first, just like what you're doing. It's messy. Like probably most of you sitting here are like, yeah, this is messy. I wish I could turn the switch on and the light would go on, but it doesn't work that way. I have to like do a voodoo dance in the corner and eventually the light goes on. It's just messy. And then the KPIs will help you get clarity around that.
This is the last one, guys.
KPIs is, that one that you put up there. You do X action 7 times, and we've discovered once this person does that, that retention goes up through the roof, or that referrals go up through the roof, and that really drives the business. Or discovering those when you're a startup with 2 or 3 people, and you might not have like the data science background to do that analysis feasible, or is that something you can kind of do once you start to grow a little bit and grow out your team?
Yeah, there's the data science background of it. One of the key aspects of, in my mind, of entrepreneurship is it's this really unique blend of art and science. And so what I'm teaching you is a little bit of the science behind the scientific method, how metrics work, the science of company building, and there's a ton of art to it too. So all of you, specifically the founders, have this gut feeling about which direction to take your business. So it's really easy early on, and it's actually a very effective method, which is just trust your gut. Just go with where your gut says. KPIs are a way to add a little bit of numerical evidence to your gut. Because if you look at the science behind improving your gut reaction to things, is a very important part is the feedback loop of my gut told me to do this. What's the data coming back that shows that that was actually right? So if you cut yourself off from feedback, your gut intuitions will never improve. So it's a balance between the two. So what I encourage you to do early on, like if you're at a point where you're like, I don't know, there's no science here, there's no rule book, there's no map, I don't know. Trust your gut, go with your gut, then ask yourself what's the easiest, fastest way to measure that so I can just get a little bit of data back about how well that worked, and then it's just continual cycles like that. So as a startup, the faster you can make those cycles, the better. You can do 10 of those cycles, 100 of those cycles a week, I've seen some companies do. Big companies, they do maybe 2 of those a quarter. So if you're in a market that's changing quickly, you have a dramatic, if you get good at this, you have a dramatic advantage over incumbent companies. Now they're big, they're strong, they can throw tons of money at something, but if a market's moving and you follow that movement, you can respond in a way that no other big company can.
Okay. So I think that their approach to KPIs is very basic, and this toolkit is available to all of us on our website. So you can go in and look at these in more detail. There's another video that I did not go into today, and it's a workshop. It's about a 20-minute long workshop that really gets into the weeds if you think that would be helpful to go into that. So that's on that same page on KPIs. Basically, I wanted to ask it, what do people think about KPIs and how important they are to your company? Anybody?
I like how you mentioned like how you can start measuring things and just keep tacking things on that you're going to measure. And then all of a sudden you look up and you've got 100 KPIs and half of them might not even be useful to you. So I think it's important to consider before you start measuring something, does that actually tell you if it's being successful or not? And I mean, it starts with whatever your main goal is, which is what you derive your KPIs from. So I think it's important to know what you're trying to achieve, and then in the beginning try a bunch of different KPIs, but just be aware of what actually indicates success and what doesn't.
Yeah, I think what I got out of it was just start doing it, right? And you'll get there. It's just, and when I started off as an entrepreneur, which was back before electricity was invented, I never heard of a KPI. I didn't understand. The only thing I ever really learned was like what results in sales, right? How many contacts, or, kind of basic stuff like that. And that's really all I was ever taught. And when I first heard about KPIs, I started thinking about really sophisticated data tools and, like SaaS software and some of the things we learned in college. It just seemed like it was too difficult, but really that's not the case. And I think Taylor makes a good point. Start doing it, but then also take a look at it and figure out, is what you're doing relevant to what you're doing. And I really like the idea of trailing indicators. He talked about things like accounting KPIs and how, for example, cash balance is a true trailing indicator. It doesn't really help you that much, other than if you realize you're running out of money, that's a separate issue. But I think the idea of starting something even small it will give you a handle on what should I do with my limited time today. And as time goes on, when you first start out, you may feel like you got a lot of time, and then you end up like one-armed paper hanger where you got so much stuff going on, you really can't figure out what to do when. Having this KPI, this process, I think can help you organize your time and use your time most effectively. And I think he also said in his one company he was working in the beginning, everybody participated in the meeting. And as they grew, it was just a subset of the company that actually participated in most of the stuff. So I think that's real helpful. And it's really a roadmap is what they're laying out. What do you think, Marcus? You've been doing this stuff for a while.
Yeah, KPIs are really important. An example of that is when we first launched our business, we were just so excited. We were just going out to dealerships and talking to them, and emailing as many as possible and calling as many as possible. At least we thought, until we put KPIs in place to track that. So if your goal is to sell, in our case, we do a lot of cold calling and cold emailing. But you can't measure what you can't, or you can't manage what you can't measure. So we had to have a way to track it. So we had to develop a sales process first in order to develop KPIs, because you need to know how many people you need to call or speak to before you can say, hey, you need this many appointments this week. And then these many appointments lead to this many sales. So we had to understand those metrics first. But there's no way we can understand that without putting some type of KPIs out there to look at what we're currently doing, so we can manage our new salespeople that we hire, and we will know what to expect, moving forward. We still struggle with it, it's because we're so new. We're still trying to figure out how many phone calls does it actually take to get presentations, how many presentations does it take to get a new sale, so you're looking at that thing on the sales side, but then on the development side, you're looking at how many users are using the app today? How many appointments were scheduled? How many started but didn't finish? I mean, we got so many KPIs. I could talk about it all day, but really it allowed us to focus on the most important thing, which is revenue. Because if you're not driving in money, you don't have a business.
Yeah. Yeah, Sawyer, how about you? You probably deal with this in your outside job maybe more than you do with your supplement business. Is that right? I don't know. Sawyer, are you there? I think he's frozen up. Okay. Cameron, how about you? What is your thoughts about KPIs? You're mostly operating by yourself, so that may be a different animal.
Yeah, funny story actually. So, I mean, like Marcus said, we have hundreds of KPIs based on, what we think is going to sell, what's trending, what music is, being listened to by the majority of our demographic. But one of the most recent ones we found is when we started off, I'm sure Taylor can attest to this, being a full-time student and then coming home after class and having, 100 different things to take pictures of. To be completely honest, I was like, okay, I'm just going to take 2 pictures of this front and back. And so we didn't really have the best conversion rate. And then we started taking our weekends. And whenever we would, go to fraternity parties and go out and have a good time, we would put people in the clothes. So we started switching that up. And anytime we went out and, were having a good time with our friends, I would just bring a bunch of our clothing, snap a few pictures, and we saw, just completely night and day change, and people loved it. So now we try to step up with having model pictures and just try to drive the authenticity of it. Like we're not just some brand trying to attract the college kids. We actually are college kids going out and doing everything we're saying we're doing. So that's been working well for us.
Yeah, I like that. Authenticity is really important. Will, how about you?
At the beginning of every year, we kind of restructure our scorecard, and that has our KPIs. It is fun to count money, but at the same time, that is a lagging KPI. And by the time you're counting it, it's already about 2 weeks old. But for us, the number of jobs per day, the number of new clients, I actually was sitting here writing down a couple other ones that I would like to add, but number of jobs per day is, and also number of average jobs per day per photographer we have is a very important number for us. So I'm a big believer in this, and it's something me and my board of directors talk about on the regular, and it's great stuff.
Fantastic. Ashley, any thoughts from your perspective?
Yeah, so I've never really done any KPIs or anything like that. But this is definitely, there's definitely a bunch of things I feel like I can measure that I just haven't put the time in to measure it, but I can definitely start to look at them more. I think as far as like how I was growing sales before was, working with ambassadors or working with influencers and stuff like that, but I never really measured it in a way. But for me, I'm thinking like, see how many people I can contact, how many people agree to work with me, and then, what kind of content they post, how many followers I get, and then how many of those followers actually turn into customers. Like all of that stuff would, I think, help me a lot if I were actually just sit down and like measure that kind of stuff. So yeah. There's definitely a lot of different things that I can measure that I just haven't really thought to do, or things that I thought was like, oh, this is too time consuming or something like that, but definitely would be very valuable information that I should be looking at.
I could see in your case, focusing your attention on the influencers that are the most productive for you. Like if you have 10, let's say, and 7 really rock and the other 3 don't, you can learn from that. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Definitely.
Yeah.
One thing I was
Harvey, how about you? What are your thoughts on KPIs?
Oh, yeah, I'll let you take over. But what I was going to say is trying to figure out how to add automations to your KPIs is really important, because just doing data entry is that part, Ashley, that can be painstaking. And there's a reason why Savannah does most of my stuff like that. It's just, as the business owner, you're the visionary, and doing some of the integrator parts of that, it needs to be done, but there are systems in place that can kind of track this for you. And that's kind of one of those things that I would highly suggest trying to learn and build into your systems, is a couple automations.
Yeah, definitely.
Will, would you mind posting some of those tools if you got, on the Slack channel or whatever? That'd be great.
I'll see what I can find that applies to most of what everybody's using and share it, because I think it's incredibly valuable and it's a time saver.
Okay. Darby, do you have any thoughts on this?
I know in my previous management jobs, I actually use KPI a lot. and it worked really well. However, for where I am right now, it would be a matter of figuring out what metrics I could actually use. And that's going to be tough for us starting out.
Maybe it's new members or number of things you have to do to get a member, whether it's email, postings, ads, whatever it is. That might be helpful to drive your membership.
Yeah, probably like social media interactions, things such as that would be a good starting point.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anybody else have anything else they want to add about KPIs? Taylor, I don't know if you have anything on your mind.
I mean, I think everything's really good, and I definitely agree just to start doing it. I think KPIs sound intimidating, but really you're probably already tracking this stuff. It's just a matter of putting it to use.
Do you use spreadsheets, Taylor, or what tools do you use for your KPIs?
It depends on what it is. Like a lot of like social media and stuff, they kind of track it for you. So we use like Google Analytics for a lot of that stuff, or just like the individual platforms. But then if there's something where the software doesn't, like Etsy, for example, I can just like click stats and see a bunch of stuff. But if I'm not able to actually see it, then I usually track it in a spreadsheet. Works pretty good.
Okay. Okay, well, it sounds like a plan. So that's all I have for today. Tomorrow, we're going to cover elevator pitch. It will be brief, like an elevator pitch, but I think it is something we should touch on. And then Thursday, we're going to have a live demo of the Facebook Live selling platform that I mentioned last week. We're going to have one of their executives is going to come on with us and do a demo and answer your questions about selling live using their platform. And some of you may already do this, but the numbers I'm seeing from some of the companies that they are doing business with are just insane. How the dollar volume of sales, and it's, it may not be for everybody, but it is something I think we should at least be aware of. And this guy should be able to help us pretty good. So that's the plan for the rest of this week. And as always, I appreciate you coming on and giving of yourself and your time and your expertise. I really appreciate it. So that's it.
Thanks,
See you
Dennis.
later. Okay, bye everybody.
All right, thank you.